Hey everyone, I'm Molly, and this is the mini video series Truths on Racism. Each week we'll be talking about a different group of people. This week we'll start by talking about Muslims. Did you know that there are 1.6 billion Muslims in the world? That means that they make up 2/7 of the Earth's population. Another fact that I think needs to be put out there that a lot of people seem to not understand is that not all Muslims are terrorists, that they're people just like everyone else. But it seems that they've gotten this identifier that every time something happens in the world that is negative, they're like, oh, it was the Muslims, it was the terrorists. And they're not the same thing. There isn't a special identifier for what a terrorist is, and Muslims are definitely not, as a whole, terrorists by any means. So this week we'll be talking to people and hearing their opinions on what they think about Muslims, what they've heard about Muslims, and what they think we can do so that Muslims are not discriminated against as much as they are. Before we get to the video, there are two people I want to thank. Chris and Eric. They were two people who helped edit these videos and collect people talking about their opinions because it would not be possible without them. So thank you. And let's get to talking about Muslims. Today we are talking about racism. So the first question I'm going to ask you is, what does race mean to you?
It means your ethnic background.
Your race is your culture. I mean, in society, it's based on how you look.
Okay. The next question you have are, what racist comments have you heard about Muslims? Like lately or just like in general?
I mean, there's the really typical ones of like, all Muslims are terrorists. They're hiding things in their headdresses.
Racism is liking all kinds of bunnies.
Okay, so the first question I have is, what is race to you?
There you go.
I think that race is like where you come from more, because I would consider, like, I don't really consider it necessarily skin color. I would consider it like someone from France is a different race than someone from, Poland.
I think, well, I don't know. I think that race kind of like plays on skin color, unfortunately, just because that's how society has made us think. So obviously that's how I think, because it's just kind of been like what I've raised to know. So I think race is skin color, but it also like depends on where you come from. Like somebody from Africa is not the same as somebody from like Asia. Like it's completely different.
The next question I have is, what racist comments have you heard or is genuinely known about Muslim people?
The most often one I hear is accusing them of being terrorists. It's like, as someone who has traveled, I actually see a lot of that in like different screening. They always target like the Muslims and anyone, like, I mean, doesn't matter gender, anyone who is, dressed like that, they automatically like keep their eye on and stuff, and people are just like less likely to trust them, I guess.
Terrorism's like the biggest one, I think, especially since like 9/11 happened. It's been through the roof, like security in airports, everything like that, and it's mostly targeted at those people, and it's not really fair, but I haven't really heard any other derogatory terms towards Muslims besides being terrorists and all of that kind of thing.
Have you guys heard about what's going on in Turkey?
Mm-hmm.
I haven't.
Okay, what's happening in Turkey?
There's a supposed terrorist attack. That's all I know.
I don't know anything about it.
So there have been terrorist attacks in Turkey, and they are well, first of all, it's not very known. Like, everyone's very focused on the Brussels one, but they both, like, just happened. Like, they're both very recent. So hearing that it has also been considered, like, a terrorist attack like Brussels, why do you think people have heard more about the one in Brussels than in Turkey?
I think it kind of boils down to the fact that the Middle East, if Turkey's like considered to be part of the Middle East, isn't technically our ally, I guess. so they're more concerned with someone who like benefits our society, like Europe. So I feel like that, I guess, is more important to people than what's happening in Turkey, because that's not typically a country we like, at least economically, care about most of the time.
And also, like, Europe is very civilized, like, it's very industrialized, and they've gone through so many different changes that have benefited them as, like, a continent. I was going to say country, it's not a country, it's a continent. So, I think that because of that, we're more focused on Europe instead of on Turkey, because Turkey isn't as developed as other countries are in Europe.
Do you speak up when you hear people saying racist comments?
I think it depends, because I think it's a very thin line between being politically incorrect and being racist. Because sometimes people will make comments that are funny, that you can laugh just as much about like a politically incorrect about a white person as you can someone who's like Chinese. So I will, if it's something that I think is like very wrong, then I will absolutely stick up for it and tell someone that it's not okay. I won't necessarily be like furious at them, because like it's a thin line, but no, I don't really tolerate racist comments.
I sometimes speak up, not as much as I wish I should, but I sometimes speak up, and a lot of times I hear it in the form of jokes.
Yeah.
Like, one of my friends makes jokes like that all the time, and sometimes I say something, but he just does it so often that I'm just like almost immune to it at this point coming from him. But I don't know, I wish I would speak up about it more, because it is a problem, and it's not okay by any means to be racist towards anybody.
Do you think that racism can be eliminated from, like, the world?
I don't think so. I think
It's wishful thinking.
But I mean, I don't want to sound like super politically incorrect or like heartless or anything, but some of the stereotypes do stem from something. Like, Americans are typically fat, you know, women are typically bad drivers. So there's like things that just because it's a stereotype doesn't mean it necessarily has to like always be super negative. So I think things like that will continue, but like there's no reason for people to think that like every Muslim's a terrorist. Like, if we keep that logic, then every white male who goes into a movie theater is gonna shoot the place. So it's like, I think things like that definitely, like, with how much people are starting to stand up for it, I think eventually it can be eliminated, like, to a point. I think there's always going to be, like, a basis of, like, some sort of racism.
I agree. I don't really have much more to add than that. She kind of covered everything that I was going to say.
All right. So, what does race mean to you?
Race?
Yes.
Different ethnicities, but not just ethnicities. When I think of race, I think like the United States is a race versus like other countries as a race.
Like, do you think like skin color is a type of race, or do you think like?
Yes, I do, but I also think that it can be broader than just the different types of skin colors that you have.
So like, you think if like someone's from France, you would think their race would be French, or like something like that?
Yeah, but I know that's not like politically correct sort of thing. I don't know. I think like, yes, if you're African American, if you're Asian, if you're white, if you're whatever, that's a race. But I still think like if you think like human race, like you said, like French is different than being American sort of thing.
All right. What racist comments have you heard about or towards Muslims?
Terrorists, that they're terrorists, that a lot of them are part of the Taliban or now ISIS. People are afraid to travel with them, things like that.
All right. And what is your attitude in general towards Muslims?
If somebody treats me right, then I don't have an issue with them. It's all about, I don't know, to me it's if you treat me well, then race doesn't matter to me, or ethnicity, like that's not important. It's, I don't know, people could say the same thing, like I could be considered, I go to Endicott, they'd be like, oh, well, you're a privileged white girl, and like that's offensive to me, but that's not, like somebody who knows me knows that I'm not like, I have a lot of money, whatever it is, sort of thing. So it's like, treat others the way that you want to be treated. So I don't really have any issues with someone's race or ethnicity.
All right.
Do you think that people in the United States that are Muslims, do you think they need to be watched?
Watched how?
Like when they go to when they go to airports, like they get more
No.
checked than.
No, because with some of these like terrorist groups, it's not just Muslims that are in them. There's also people who are in the United States who are white, who are, you know, oh, I'll be part of ISIS now or something like that. So why watch a group of people because there are a few people in that group that are bad? You're not watching white people because, say, like the Virginia Tech shooting. You're not watching them because one white college boy shot a school, things like that. So, no.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.